Okay, here we go with 7.7. It's our last section of chapter 7. And we're going to deal with complex fractions. But again, we are going to use everything that we have been learning up till now in chapter 7. So here's what we're going to do. First of all, what is a complex fraction? Well, if you look, you can kind of look and see what a complex fraction is. But basically what it is it's fractions that contain other fractions. That's what makes them what we would call complex fractions. And what we want to do is we want to simplify or reduce these fractions as much as possible. There are a couple of different ways to do these. I'm going to show you just one way because quite honestly, it's using what we've been using and I think it's the easiest way. So what you're going to do is you are going to take, and if you think of this up here as just 2 over 1. So I'm going to rewrite the fraction with that being a 2 over 1. You don't really have to do this, but for the first one, it's a good idea. If you look at all 3 of these fractions and look at their denominators, what's the lowest common denominator? Well, hopefully you can see that the lowest common denominator is 6. So what we're going to do is we are going to take each fraction within the large fraction, and we're going to multiply it by that lowest common denominator over 1. What that's going to do is it's going to eliminate all of the small fractions for us. So let's see what happens. So if we take the top 2 over 1, and we're going to multiply that again by 6 over 1, the LCD over 1. Then we're going to take 3 over 2 times 6 over 1 minus 4 over 3 times 6 over 1. I know it's a lot of writing, but suck it up. It really makes it a lot easier. So let's see what that does for us. So on the top, since 2 really wasn't a fraction to begin with, it just gets multiplied by 6. Nothing cancels, and we're left with 12. Now look at on the bottom. This 2 will cancel into this 6, leaving me with 3. And 3 times 3 is 9, minus, here this 3 cancels into this 6, leaving me with a 2. And 4 times 2 is 8. See how all the little fractions disappeared? Which now leaves me with 12 over 1, which is simply 12. And not so bad. All right, let's do the same thing for number 2. Now again, this is really x over 1 on the top. So what is the lowest common denominator of all of the bottoms of the fractions? Well, it's just x. So we are going to take and we're going to multiply every term by x over 1. So x over 1 times x over 1 on the top. 3 over x times x over 1 plus 1 over x times x over 1. So let's see what that does for us. Well, x times x on the top is x squared. On the bottom, these x's cancel, which leaves me with just 3 over 1, which is 3, plus, here the x's cancel again in the second fraction, and which just leaves us with 1 over 1, which is just 1. So that fraction simplifies to x squared over 4. And that's it. Let's look at number 3. So now again, this is really 9 over 1 on the top. So if I look at all the denominators, 1x and 3x, what is my LCD? Well, it's 3x. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to multiply every single fraction by 3x over 1. Go ahead and pause this if you want to try it on your own and then come back. So that would be 9 over 1 times 3x over 1 over 9 over x times 3x over 1 plus 2 over 3x, times 3x over 1. So in the top, nothing cancels, and 9 times 3x is going to be 27x over, going here, the x's are going to cancel, and I'm going to be left with just 9 times 3, which is 27, plus, here the 3 and the x are going to cancel, which is left with 2 times 1, or 2. So that's going to give me 27x over 29, and that fraction does not reduce. So you're done. Hopefully you're getting the hang of it. If we look to number 4, now again, the bottom is really 6 over 1. So if we look at all the denominators, 9, 4, and 1, what is the lowest common denominator? Well, it's going to be 36. So let's go ahead and let's eliminate all the little fractions by taking each one and multiplying it by 36 over 1. So you can see it looks like that before we start our canceling. Now let's go ahead and start canceling. So the 9 will cancel into the 36 4 times, giving me 4x squared in my first term on the top, plus the 4 will cancel into the 36, leaving me with 9. And on the bottom, once again, nothing cancels. And 6x times 36, 6 times 36, I think, is 216x. Is there any way to simplify this? Is there any factoring I can do? This is a sum of squares. Can't do that, only if it was a minus. No canceling I can do. You're done with that one. All right, we got a couple more on the next page. Don't panic. You don't need all the room for each one of them. So each one of these has 4 fractions, but it's done exactly the same way. So I'm going to do number 5 with you, and then I'm going to leave you to do number 6 alone. So if I look at all the fractions in number 5, 12, 4, 18, and 36 are all of the denominators. The lowest common denominator of all of those is 36, because 12, 4, and 18 divide into 36. So again, we're going to write this step, 25 over 12 times 36 over 1 plus x plus 1 over 4 times 36 over 1 over 1 over 18 times 36 over 1 minus x minus 1 over 36 times 36 over 1. This is going to be a little bit trickier, but not too bad. All right, so if we do these first multiplication problem, the 12 will cancel into the 36 3 times, and that leaves me with 3 times 25, which is 75, plus. This 4 will cancel into the 36 9, and that's going to leave me with 9, and then I'm going to have to multiply that by x plus 1, and you can see you're going to have to distribute, and I'll do that in the next step. Over. When we go to the denominator, this 18 will cancel into the 36 twice, and we have 2 times 1, which is just 2, minus, we have to be careful here, the 36 cancels into the 36, giving me 1, but make sure you put the x minus 1 in parentheses, because you're subtracting that whole quantity. It's like having a negative 1 here to distribute, so be careful. So let's go ahead and distribute. So 75 plus 9x plus 9 over 2 minus x plus 1 when we distribute. If I just go ahead and combine like terms, I'm going to get 9x plus 84 over negative x plus 3. And again, that does not simplify. If something were to factor and cancel, we'd go ahead and do that, but I'm not seeing that here, so it looks like we're done. All right, why don't you guys turn it off or pause, go ahead and do number 6, and then come back and watch me do it, and we'll see if we end up in the same place. Our last example for chapter 7. All right, so now if I'm looking at here, the LCD of all of the denominators is simply going to be 4. So I'm going to take each term and multiply it by 4 over 1. And I'm already looking at having some issues, possibly like we did in the previous one with negative signs, so we're going to have to be careful. So there's that step, just multiplying everything by 4 over 1. Now I'm going to go ahead and do my canceling. So 2 cancels into the 4 twice. So that's going to give me 2 times 1, or 2, minus, now here I'm looking at the 4's canceling, but I'm left with the x plus 5. Did you make sure that you put that in parentheses? Here the 2 will cancel into the 4 twice, which will leave me with 2x squared, minus, and here the 2 will cancel into the 4 twice, giving me 10. All right, so now we're going to have to go ahead and distribute the negative. So it's going to be 2 minus x minus 5 over 2x squared minus 10. Combining like terms, we're going to get negative x, and 2 minus 5 is negative 3 over 2x squared minus 10. Now the question is, will this simplify at all? Well, I could factor a 2 out of the bottom, but will that give me anything I could cancel from the top? No. That's your final answer.